Oh, look, we're back again. We're back on this lovely, what is it, Good Friday? It is Good Friday. Happy Good Friday to everybody out there. Hope you guys are doing well. You're getting ready for your weekend. There's a lot to cover, namely one, I'm going to mute myself on this side, one letter, a response from Fani Willis herself to Jim Jordan. And it was done in a little bit of a defiant manner, right? So we're going to look at that. But also, I'm not even going to waste any time. The other thing that I just got hot off the presses, you're in for a treat, you guys. You are in for a treat. In addition, guess what was filed today? This. We have Trump's appeal. The appeal was filed today. This just came hot off the presses, Steve Sadow's Twitter account less than an hour ago. Right? I'm so pumped that this is here too. So you guys are in for a double treat. I'm going to review this letter, the Fani Willis letter. We're going to catch up on everything, but at the same time, this appeal just came in literally hours ago. So we will be looking at this together. Of course, it's been a long week. It's been a long few weeks covering this trial with you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and mute some text messages because people are like wanting to text me now. And it's just like, oh my God, when I start a stream, it's not the best time. However, I'm super pumped to be here with you guys on this Friday evening for us to review this because it looks like things are going to be amazing in these next few weeks when it comes to this particular case. All eyes are on the Fani and Trump thing because, it's a pretty serious thing. And we know that it's an election year. So most people are looking at it because are we going to delay this case past the election? Are we going to have this case litigated before the election? Or does it just get dismissed? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we go anywhere, let me see who we have in the building, and then we will get started with the letter response because it was filed earlier this week. And yesterday was the deadline. Yesterday, March 28th at noon. Was the deadline that Jim Jordan gave Fani Willis to give up these documents. And I'll bring you guys up to speed on that if you don't know what's going on. Shout out to Deborah, who's first. She says, can't wait to hear this. She done lost her mind. She's messing with the wrong guy. Now get her, Jim. Shout out to Joel, who says, oh man, yes, there's a defiant response here. Hi, Foster. Good to see you. Foster says, hello. Hello, Foster. Glad to see you. BCM says she lost her mind. Yeah, she responded. Shout out to Leonard. Shout out to Ron, who says Jordan isn't the one to be messed with. Contempt of Congress ain't no joke. It is not. And wait till you guys see it. Shout out to Kathy, who's in the building. Shout out to Deborah again. And Nurse Janice from the UK. What time is it in the UK? You guys are 6 hours ahead. So is it 11:41? Or do you guys use military time? 23:41 over there. Interesting. Shout out to Jennifer, who's in the building as well. Hey, Papa V, he says he's checking in from Huntsville, Alabama, and specifically for TLA. Roll Tide, roll! He is letting him know. I love it. El Becky is in here. John's like, where are you at, AV? I try not to be too late. Try not to be too late. Shout out to E. Capone, who's like, AV, boa tarde. I can't wait for the streams to start. Well, luckily, guys, I think we are right at the beginning. And shout out to Joe Ethereal. It's good to see you, brother. So happy you are here with us as well. We have folks checking in from Louisiana. We have Texas Strong. You like the blazer? Shout out to Casual Economist. Yeah, we're putting in overtime this week. Yeah, yesterday, TLA and I did 2 streams on his side. We covered the hearing for this particular case in the morning. Then we did a Diddy thing in the afternoon. Just got off of a stream with him a few hours ago. I was like, I just need to sit on my couch for like an hour. And then I need to talk to my folks because what happens is when when I do the co-hosting thing, sometimes I neglect my own channel a little bit. Not too much though, because like last night I was working with the editor, getting a Diddy video out, just because I had done some work on that over the past 6 months. And I wanted you guys to see a timeline of different cases and things of the like all together that had to do with Diddy, both on the civil side, but also on the criminal side. The news that we saw with him this week is more on the criminal side. But I'm not going to talk about him too much because I don't know what the algorithm is doing, but it may not push this video out to some folks if you mention him. Do me a favor, hit the like button while we're at it. You just got in, hit the like button. I don't lock people out yet. I don't lock you outside yet. But at some point, you're going to want to make sure that you get the golden ticket so that you're in here. Shout out to Lady Di. Hi, Susie Q. All right, I think I've said hello to most of you that are in the building. Wow, look at the chat. It is moving incredibly fast. I think we should just get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, we know, what is this whole Jim Jordan thing about? I did a stream probably about a week ago. And what this is about is we know that there has been a huge focal point on Atlanta, specifically Fulton County, which is where I am right now. Originally hail from Boston, but recently a new transplant in the Atlanta area. Now, we know that there is the election interference case with Trump, and Fani Willis and team are litigating it. Over the past month, we've seen a lot of things kind of coming into light because Trump and some of the co-defendants wanted to get Fani Willis disqualified from this case. Why? She hired one, Nathan Wade, who was a special prosecutor on the case, but also was her lover. And they admitted to this relationship. However, we needed to determine when this relationship started because it gives you a really good understanding of motive. Was he hired because he was in a relationship with her? Or was he hired based off of, like you and I, dear viewer, the plot thickens, pure grit, hard work, effort, and experience? Turns out we learned that Nathan Wade had never had experience litigating a case like this. In fact, he was a judge, but when he was presiding over the court, he did not have the requisite experience to handle a case like this. This is an election interference case, but it is also pretty significant. This is a president of the United States. You know, you need to have the requisite skill. And also, I will say this, I will say that you need to also have constitutional law chops as well, because there are certain presidential powers that are out there. The executive branch has specific powers that are out there that they have, that they're entitled to exercise in that office, right? Steve Sadow yesterday was back in court, and we were back in court on this particular issue yesterday in front of Judge McAfee, who's a cool 34 years old. The plot thickens, same age as your girl. We are the same age. You know, the lead attorney likes to make a joke, and it's kind of because I pointed it out to him. Judge McAfee and I are the same age. Lead and I have a huge age gap, and you know, sometimes I make fun of him, just, you know, with certain things because we come from a different generation. Judge McAfee in 2001 was my age at that time. We were both 11 years old. Born in 1989. That was the year that the lead attorney graduated. So we started to realize that, and a few of you guys brought that to my attention, that Judge McAfee was this young. Judge McAfee is this young, hasn't been on the bench for very long, but has had a pretty decent tenure. I think he's been on the bench for about 5 years now. On the bench for 5 years, and gets handed this case. One of the biggest cases in US history regarding election interference. We don't have many of these. Going back to 2001 when I was 11, you guys remember Bush v. Gore. I think that was the last time in this modern era where there was an issue regarding elections. You had George Bush, you had Al Gore, and there was a debate looking at the outcome of the election. I bet your ass. Sorry for the people that hate when I swear. I bet you that the judge presiding over those cases or that case was probably not 34 years old. Hey, it happens only in Fulton County. Only in Fulton County. Anywho, that's what's going on with the Fani case. I will bring up this appeal in a second since it's hot off the press and we can look at it because it is about the disqualification. It is the defendants banding together saying, hey, Judge McAfee, we do not agree with you. And we are now bringing this to the Court of Appeals. This document is ready and has been filed today to the Court of Appeals. So I'm so happy to look at that with you guys. Okay, let's do this. Are we still talking about, hi, Lady Di, are you guys talking about memberships? Here's what we will do. This is how you join and get a membership. If you're looking at this from a mobile device, I think there's like a cash button, like if you want to interact in the chat or something along those lines, there's a way to join there. If you're looking at this from a desktop, there's a button. I believe it's a black button that says join. That's how you can get a membership here. What does membership include? I let you guys know when we're going live earlier. I give you information earlier before anybody else has it, right? So for example, some of my competitors here on YouTube are going to share this document with you in like 4 or 5 hours. I'm going to share it with you earlier. So, you know, while I was on my couch 30 minutes ago, I would have just popped that into the community tab for my members. That's how you know. So membership has its privileges, okay? That's how it works, okay? So I hope that that was clear. But thank you, Lady Di. Usually, don't worry if you don't see it right now. And if you're watching this off of a TV, that's okay too. Later today, I usually after the streams, I put the link in the description box. So if you don't see it right now, it's all right. You're going to enjoy the show, right? But you can join later on after the stream ends. Okay, so Jim Jordan. Now we're going to move to this topic because I kind of briefed you guys on what was happening with the Fani Willis Donald Trump thing, okay? She is still on the case as of now. Nathan Wade has put his resignation in and he is no longer working with Fani Willis, okay? The defendants are still not satisfied with that because they want Fani and her entire office off of this case. That's the appeal. Jim Jordan, separate issue, wanted to talk to Fani Willis about this thing. About a year ago, the Department of Justice gave Fani Willis's office a certain amount of money. I believe it was right around $500,000. And it was in the form of a grant. When the government gives you money for philanthropic purposes, you need to spend that money wisely, but you also have to use it for the purpose in which it is granted to you, right? And it's the Department of Justice. It's a legal entity, or at least a branch of our government, providing that money for a purpose to usually give back to the community, right? There was a whistleblower in Fani Willis's office who noticed that there were people that reported to her that did not necessarily have the best plans for the money. She brought that concern to Fani Willis herself, whom when she was, and I don't want to misquote this, the information was brought to her, but when the information was shared publicly, it was kind of after this employee was let go. Fani Willis's stance on this was that this whistleblower had a history of behavior that wasn't the best in the office. I don't know if they had a HR department. You know, I come from corporate America where honestly, like if there's an issue, you report it to HR and the HR team usually handles this thing from soup to nuts. Like they figure out, they investigate, they figure out what's going on. What did the employees say? What did the manager say? Where are the contradictions? And let's go from there and perform an investigation. Here, this is kind of like that because in a sense, Congress has its own congressional powers that we see in the US Constitution as well. And one of those powers involves the way that money is spent. They have oversight over that. because the DOJ falls under the government. This is money that they have oversight over. So Jim Jordan and team, they see what's happening with the election interference thing. They hear about this whistleblower because the whistleblower got fired from Fani Willis's office. She got escorted. And I think I have the clip still here. If I don't, we could pull it up. Jim Jordan is, kind of explaining the situation. And he's just like, hey, do you know that woman that was a whistleblower was 4'11"? And she had armed security guards escort her from the building the day that she was fired? That happened. Yesterday, March 28th, Jim Jordan and team sent Fani Willis a letter in February in the shitstorm when all of this with Nathan was going on and they were in court and they were testifying, all of that stuff. They're like, hey, by this date, I think it was the end of February, we need a response from you surrounding all documents like that have a record of what this whistleblower told you, how you got the money, how you spent the money, because there was a gentleman in the office, and I played a recording for you guys like 2 streams ago, where the whistleblower was actually having a conversation with Fani and saying, hey, I talked to your subordinate and he said that he was going to spend this money on laptops, travel, and swag. It's not for that. This grant is for us to reinvest into the community. That's what this grant is for. Agreed to disagree, the girl was fired. Jim Jordan says, all right, Fani, I'm going to give you a second chance. Here's another letter. By March 28th at noon, we want these documents that we requested and you failed to produce last month. You know what happened yesterday at noon? Fani wasn't in court. Steve Sadow was in court. Yesterday, we were back in court on the election interference case. Everybody was like, Fani, where are you at noon? Did you give Jim and the committee the documents they needed? The answer, dear viewer, is no. They gave them some, but not all. What I have for you is her response that was written and submitted on the 25th. 25th was what? Monday? Sunday? This week has been so crazy, guys, in the legal world. Yeah, Monday. Let me share the screen and we will read it. We will read the debauchery together. Let's stop sharing the appeals document. We're going to share screen, the window. Oh, look, some of you guys are dropping super chats. Don't worry. I'm coming to them. You got to build it as you fly it. Running a production's a lot. Thank you so much for your patience. There it is. Present, share screen, window, Fani response. All right, here it is. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Zoom in some and read the defiance together. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, not going to waste time. This is Fani's response that came in on Monday. It reads the following. Let me see if I can go in a little bit more. All right, here we go. Dear Mr. Jordan, I am in receipt of your letter dated March 14th, 2024. And I categorically reject the assertion that this office is deficient. Deficient in responding to the committee's subpoena dated February 2nd, 2024. We're already starting off hot. As you note in your letter, we have already provided you with substantial information about our programs that are funded via federal grants. Further, as I expressed to you in my letter dated February 23rd, 2024, this office is in the process of producing relevant documents to you on a rolling basis and is undertaking a good faith effort to provide you with responsive information about our federal grant funding. As part of that ongoing process, we are again today making a document production. What is she saying here? Because before we go into the defiantness of this, she is saying, hey, Jim, you're asking us for documents. You are saying that you want all of them. And I am saying we are giving you some of them. Or rather, that we're going to give them to you not at once, but on a rolling basis. So that means we're going to release them to you in pieces. Now, guys, do you think anyone can run an investigation with pieces of evidence? So we're going to give you some of the documents in April. We're going to give you some of the documents in June. We're going to give you some of them in October. And hey, right before Christmas, after the election, we'll give you the rest. Do you think that is any way to run an investigation? And granted, in litigation, it happens. Sometimes that happens. But put a 1 in the chat if you think that that is an effective way for Congress to run an investigation. Or please, this is your opinion, put 2 in the chat if you disagree and think that she should give everything up front right now so they can investigate the grant. There can't be that much. It's 1 grant. And if it's not 1 grant, and if it's a series of grants, because I think it ranged from 2020 to 2024, there can't be that much. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. You can't run an investigation like that. For her to say, we're going to give it to you on a rolling basis, just rolling. You know, how do we do this? So let's see what else she says here, because it gets a little bit crazier. Okay. She also says, your primary complaint appears to be that we did not complete the production of your extensive document demands. Notice the word extensive here, highlighted. He really didn't, and I showed it to you guys last time. I might pull it up again so we can compare and contrast. He asked for 5 categories of documents, right? You got to give people direction on what they're looking for. He gave them 5 categories. Anything that was related to the receipt of the grant, how you guys spent the grant, any software that helps you take account for how the funds were spent, those type of things, right? There were 5 categories. I distinctly remember that, right? But she's saying that these document demands are extensive. And she acknowledges it. She says, including 5 categories of documents over a 4-year period in less than 2 months. Here's where the plot thickens. That demand is unreasonable and uncustomary and would require this government office to divert resources from our primary purpose of prosecuting crime. Let me be clear. While we are abiding by your subpoena in good faith and with due diligence, we will not divert resources that undermine our duty to the people of Fulton County to prosecute felonies committed in this jurisdiction. We will not shut down this office's efforts to prosecute crime, including gang activity, acts of violence, and public corruption, to meet unreasonable deadlines and your politically motivated investigation of this office. Fani, it's 4 years. It's a couple grants. How many people now I'm curious. How many people, I think I showed this to you guys on the last stream too. How many people work in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office? How many? According to FultonCountyDA.org, 258 employees work in that office. Now let's just do some math. If 258 employees work in the office, and if we had to outsource people like Nathan, and when you guys need help, you have to contract out and get other attorneys to help you. So there's very possibly a lot more, because that number is not including contractors. Are we saying that we can't put 5 people on this? Maybe 10 if you have the resource. Oh, how about this? We can't hire contractors to help. We were able to hire contractors to help prosecute Trump. We could do that. Let's continue. I'm going to take my personal opinion out of it. I'm just saying, it's just logic. As noted above, included with this correspondence are additional documents responsive to your subpoena, including documents that are responsive to priority categories identified in your March 14th letter. We will make another production in the coming weeks. So what did she give him? What does that paragraph tell you? She did not give them everything. She gave them something and was like, I did something. I gave you something. I gave you what we could. You will have to wait for the others. What did the congressional letter say? 3/28 at noon. I want all of it. We want all of it. Because it's not just Jim Jordan, guys. Like, he's, one of the most prominent figures on the committee, but it's not just him. The committee wanted to see this together. They're a branch of our government. When the government asks you to do something, I mean, you should do it. She's literally saying right here in this sentence, we're doing some of it. Some of it, not the whole thing. We're going to give you a part of the pie. Here's 1/4. If you or I, dear viewer, did that, we would go to jail. We would. I can't give the IRS something unless I work it out with them, or if I get permission to work it out with them. If I have a parking ticket or whatever, I still have to pay it. I could give you some of the money, but that's what this paragraph kind of reads like. Oh, like, here's some of it. So interesting stuff. Let's blow it back up and keep going. However, let me again state this clearly. Oh my God, the tone! Nothing that you do will derail the efforts of my staff and I to bring the election interference prosecution to trial so that a jury of Fulton County citizens can determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants. Wow, let me read that one more time. However, let me again state this clearly. Nothing that you do will derail the efforts of my staff and I to bring the election interference prosecution to trial so that a jury of Fulton County citizens can determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants. This is where it gets personal. My family, my staff, and I have been threatened repeatedly by people making violent, often racist attacks. Neither those threats nor anything your colleagues or you say or do will deter us from fulfilling our duty to bring this case to trial. Yours in service, Fani T. Willis. There it is. Couple thoughts. Let's just debrief this, and then I cannot wait to see what you guys think. I spent my last role prepping the chief executive officer for one of the nation's top 5 banks to be in front of Congress. It took months. It took many people on one team to review every single thing that CEO was going to say, to anticipate every single question he was going to be asked. And we did it in a professional manner because we wanted to make sure he was sharp. We know things get heated on the Hill. We know that. But imagine a team at a bank writing a letter, sitting down, typing this on behalf of a bank. Banks were getting in trouble a few years ago. You had all types of stuff happening in 2008. Many banks were in trouble. Last year, you had the whole thing with Silicon Valley Bank, the bailouts, all of those things. Imagine if a corporation has somebody like me or someone else sit down and say, hey, we're not going to give you all of the documents that you want. We're going to give you some of them. And on top of that, you will not stop us from collecting overdraft fees from all of these clients. So many people left just now when I started yelling. But come on. If regular citizens have to abide by the law and requests from Congress, if corporations have to do the same thing, come on, Fani. And then for her to go 2 layers deep, she did 2 things. I'm sorry, guys. My communications hat is going on. I have to look at it again. It starts right here. She's like, okay, first of all, your subpoena is you're asking for too many things. And it's just like, just comply. Why can't you just comply? But then for you to start a sentence with, let me again state this clearly. Nothing that you do will derail the efforts of my staff and I to bring the election interference prosecution to trial. What does that have to do with the request for documents? What does that have to do with that? Why did you need to put this sentence here? We already know what's happening in Fulton County because it's everywhere on the news. And then for you to say that the citizens will determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants. Okay. Great. They could, okay, if it makes it to trial, if it does, great. If it doesn't, great. But that has nothing to do with this issue. This is about money that Congress signed off on, that the DOJ gave your office. Congress is wanting to inquire how it was spent. This has nothing to do with the election interference case. So the fact that this paragraph is here is interesting. Then at the end, and I can see maybe why she wants to include that, like, hey, we are just overloaded right now. If that's what you want to say to them, like, my family, my staff, and I have been threatened repeatedly by people making violent and racist attacks. Neither those threats nor anything your colleagues, anything your colleagues and you say or do will deter us from fulfilling our duty to bring this case to trial. And I'm going to take a super chat break for a minute because has Jim Jordan attacked her, guys? Can you put a yes in the chat if he's attacked her publicly? I'll put a no in the chat if you just don't have any knowledge of that. But it's kind of like if we're sticking on topic and staying on what was asked of you, because it's not just Jim Jordan himself, it's a committee of people, right? It's a committee. In his original letter, I don't think that was there. It's an inquiry. Where's the money? Where did it go? How did you spend it? Why did this girl get fired? She went to you. We heard the recording. What happened? Why did she get fired? That's it. These extra paragraphs are a little crazy. Shout out to Fila Speaks, who says, them lips looking extra juicy. Is it the gloss? Love you. Thank you. Yeah, man. This is the Fenty Glow lip gloss. This is what I use. That's what you're looking at. Shout out to Papa V, who's become a new member. Thank you, Papa. Welcome to the community. Shout out to Felicity, who has also become a new member. Good to see you over here, Felicity. Dianora says Jim filed contempt of Congress already. If he filed contempt, I mean, it was due yesterday at noon. What was happening yesterday at noon? The Trump case was happening. Everybody was like, was Fani in the courtroom? She made an appearance in the courtroom afternoon, after 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So partial documents is not going to cut it, right? And if he filed contempt, I mean, she didn't submit everything at the deadline. Shout out to Incognito B-Fly, became a member. Welcome to the community. Shout out to Foster, who gave out 5 AV to the 7th Power memberships. Guys, if you have received a membership from Foster, please do me a favor and tell him thank you. And do me a favor, put a cat emoji there as well. Like if you were awarded one of the memberships that went to Foster, and guys, these are distributed at random by YouTube. So if you're in the chat at the time, sometimes I think it even gets distributed to people that are not in the chat. Because I see comments where people are like, I got gifted a membership. I don't know who gave it to me. It's amazing. So Foster, thank you so much. Super generous. And again, guys, we're beefing this up. It's going to be a busy year with all types of legal things happening. And I just want to make sure that you have access to my chat. I'm not locking anybody out yet because I'm not big enough. But when the time comes, you're going to want to make sure that you're a member, you're locked in, you check out the space, you try it out, you see if you like it, and you go from there. Shout out to Monique's World, who gifted 1 AV to the 7th Power membership. Thank you so much, Monique. That was very, very sweet of you. Gifted a membership to our folks. Shout out to Felicity, who says, AV7, wear out that Fani. Fani needs to go. No matter what the defendant's charges, she has a duty to the country and state to uphold the highest standard. She didn't. And as a matter of fact, she lowers the standards. You know, that's the tough part about this, because a lot of people are like, hey, are you guys just like, you know, smearing her name on the internet? No. It's hard for me, guys. I went to law school, and I always point to those books. Every single one of those cases in those books, especially criminal cases, involve a prosecutor and a defendant, right? Doesn't matter where you are in life. You can be someone that is rich and you have all the money in the world. You can be somebody that's middle class. You could be somebody that's lower, lower means lower class. The point is justice is supposed to be blind. It's not supposed to be politically motivated. It's not supposed to be used as a tool for one's career. Arguably, some people are saying that Fani's using this for her career. And I will say, just as a younger woman that would look up to prosecutors, I have friends that are prosecutors, right? This whole thing has just been really disappointing. It really has. You know, I think for undergrad, Fani went to Harvard. I think, I know she went to Emory Law School. You know, she has a superb education, but to make choices like she's made with Nathan Wade and some of those things, RICO is very loose in the state of Georgia right now. In the interest of justice, it just doesn't look right, and I've been criticized to the ground over these past few weeks because people are like, oh my God, you're being mean to her. And it's just like, nah, I mean, it's just asking some questions. Why did these things happen? But the level of disappointment, I think that's real. And I think that is something that most people can identify with. And this is not a smear thing. It's about what's doing what's right. And I think that we can all agree there were some missteps here where it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. So thank you, Felicity. I really appreciate that. Shout out to Stefano. He does a $10 super. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. Thank you so much. Professional Nomad Podcast says, sent the super from my other account. This is Stefano again. Okay. Stefano. Okay. Professional Nomad Podcast and Stefano, same person. Now putting names to faces. Shout out to Q's Corner who says, Dear Jimmy, that was cute. Have several seats. You will get them when I give them to you. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. I am the HJIC XOX Fanny. I mean, that's the response. The response is defiant in nature, but it's also like, hey, I've got something else to do, so we're going to be over here doing it. I can see if it was a capacity issue, but again, guys, 258 people working at that office. You're telling me that nobody can help pull some documents and send it to Congress so you guys don't get in trouble? And if you had nothing to hide, here you go. What did Ashley Merchant say at the Georgia Senate hearing? If you had nothing to hide with the cell phone records, it should have been, here you go. Shout out to Q's Corner. Oh, we just read that one. Thank you, Q. Shout out to Salty Balls. $10. You got me. He says, hey, I'm going to behave today, AV. Shout out to you. Thank you so much, Salty Balls. I love that I have to say that. I have to read your name out loud. Salty Balls, right? Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I hope you're doing well, brother, and that the channel is doing well. Shout out to Candy Yates. She says, yes, AV, I agree. She needed to stop playing these games. She's making herself look bad. Come on, Fanny. Do better. Do better. That's it. Do better. Just respond. It's easy. Shout out to MMCS Retired. He became a member. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Mikey Show. I haven't seen you in a long time, Mikey. He says, we are not worthy, okay, AV? We are all not worthy of Fani Willis and her court turn-ups. I mean, and that's the thing. You never see them coming. It just comes out of nowhere. It's just like, like if you're boxing, it's just, like you're sitting there, you're bobbing and weaving to the right, to the left, and then all of a sudden an uppercut comes and it's just like, Fani, I'm learning. What are you doing? Why does it need to be this crazy? Shout out to Gilbert, who says, always saying everyone must abide by the same laws while they do as they will. Maybe we should talk us. I mean, that's the thing. It's a prosecutor's office. I'm just going to use logic for a second, Gilbert. It's a prosecutor's office. You prosecute people for breaking the law. You know what contempt means. If the shoe were on the other foot, and if she were to be working with a defense of a defense counsel, and she were to ask for the production of documents, do you guys not think that Fani Willis wouldn't move off of her square? She would stand on that square until those documents were produced. And if you got partial, you would demand more. So why is it that we can't do the same things that we do every day? That's what the office does. Shout out to ZT, who says superb education does not mean superb self-worth or integrity. That is correct. Thank you so much, ZT. And then huge big one. Shout out to Mike in Tennessee. Thank you, Mike. Wow. Mike provides a $100 super chat to the stream. He is the new stream sponsor and says, Congress is a toothless tiger and Fani knows it. You and TLA are the best commentary on all the Trump legal cases. Men's t-shirt update, shareholder. Thank you so much. And Mike in Tennessee, guys, is long, like I love seeing his name in my community. Thank you, Mike, for the update on Twitter as well. I saw that message. And yes, let me announce this, guys, while I'm on the topic. My Twitter is very brand spanking new. It's like a week old. I had another one, but for some reason I haven't logged in a while. I think it got corrupted beyond redemption or something happened. So I needed to restart my account from scratch. So you might look me up, AV to the 7th power. You're going to be like, why does she only have like 100 people following her? It's because I'm rebuilding my Twitter back up. Mike, thank you for that reminder. And I think Mike has a point here. Congress can be a toothless tiger. And Fani's like, yep, I'm going to go back to what I'm doing over here. But she also made it a point to make a really big political statement. Like, I'm going to go back to the election interference case. I'm going to go back to prosecuting crimes. I'm going to use the resources of my office to do this. So while you're trying to figure out where the money went, I'm going to go and do this. As far as the men's t-shirts, I have my designer. She is feverishly working on some options. We're supposed to review them this weekend. Hopefully we can get some of these shirts up next week, especially since this appeal has just been filed. So it's really, really good stuff. So Mike from Tennessee, thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and give you your flowers here in the banner. Let me go ahead and edit it. If you guys can type in Mike in the chat, that would be fantastic. And forgive me, guys, I'm a little tired because I did a stream with Lead earlier today. So this is the second one of the day. Let's see, Mike from Tennessee. How is the weather in Tennessee today? It is warming up on this lovely Good Friday here in Atlanta. So I hope the weather in Tennessee is good and it will be a good weather weekend. All right, guys, I'm going to come back to the content because when people like Mike bless me like this, I want to make sure that we continue on with the content. That being said, we know that that concludes the letter, right? Fani put the letter out. It seems like Congress has put her in contempt. We'll see what happened. I want to verify if that actually got filed. Before this stream, I did go to Jim Jordan's Twitter just to do a quick scan. I didn't see him post anything today about the contempt filing. Okay. But so far, so good. We'll continue watching it. What we did see was, what we did see was the filing from Boots, okay, and team. So this is not on topic, but still kind of related. And I'm only mentioning it because it is literally hot off the press. Okay, what are we looking at here? We are looking at the Trump appeal that is going to the Georgia Appeals Court. Judge McAfee told these defendants that they had an opportunity to file an appeal. He gave them the certified permission to do so. That appeal was filed today. Okay, who does that appeal include? It includes Trump. It includes Giuliani. It includes Meadows. It includes Clark, Chile, Roman, Schaefer, Floyd, and Latham. Okay, these are all the defendants together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of the 17 that are joining in on this appeal. Okay, so we have all the attorneys' names here on the screen. And then, Mike, I'm going to take you down for a second. Thank you so much again for that generous super chat and becoming the stream sponsor. We see Ashley Merchant's name on here. We see a few other people, but we know that this appeal is now official. Okay. Table of contents. They have an intro. They have a background, jurisdiction, the order, the standard of review, and the argument. I will probably take you guys to the argument just in the interest of time, just so you can see what's on there. A lot of these arguments, I believe, are very similar to things that we've been hearing over the past few weeks. So nothing too crazy. They have a table of cases that are on here. It's organized very well. And that's the other thing. When you have court documents, usually they are typically shorter than this. When you go to a court of appeals, whether it is on the state level or on a federal level, you need to really cross your T's and dot your I's and be extremely diligent in legal writing. That is one thing that they've taught us in law school. Like, it was insane how stringent and how particular you need to be when it comes to this. But you can see all the sources that they have as well. They've got some CNN videos. They've got some interviews with DA Willis. They've got the Find Me the Votes book. I think I saw a few YouTube links as well. So there's a ton of stuff going on. Let's just briefly read the top heading introduction, and then we can go down to the meat on the bottom. It says defendants were indicted by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in August of 2022 for their alleged actions related to the 2020 presidential election. At issue here is whether DA Willis and her entire office should be disqualified from prosecuting the case based upon, 1, DA Willis's inflammatory out-of-court statements regarding the defendants and their counsel and other misconduct, forensic misconduct, in response to this motion, and 2, her actual and apparent conflict of interest in the case. While the trial court factually found her out-of-court statements were improper and defendants proved an apparent conflict of interest, the trial court erred as a matter of law by not requiring dismissal of DA Willis's disqualification. So what are they saying here, guys? They're saying that the trial court, Scott McAfee and team, they agree that there was an appearance of impropriety. So you agree that there were some things that Fani and team did that was legally improper. That should be a shirt. Legally improper. We saw that. And Judge McAfee agreed. That was legally improper. However, she was not disqualified. You guys know she was given the choice. Nathan goes, or you and your entire office go. We know she wasn't going to make that decision, right? However, what this appeal, the crux of this appeal does is it really highlights the point that she was not disqualified. So they're looking at it like, hey, judge, you said that we proved that there was an apparent conflict of interest, but you did not require dismissal and her disqualification. So now we need the Court of Appeals to look at this. And this legal error requires the appeals court's immediate review. Not later, now. We need you to look at this now. It says that the erroneous trial court order that will cause substantial error at trial is subject to immediate review by this court, as are orders that raise issues for which precedent is needed. The March 15th order from the trial court declining to disqualify Willis from further prosecuting this case invokes both criteria. So they're saying, hey, you need to look at it now. That's the criteria. Here's why you need to look at it. First, the failure to disqualify a prosecutor is a structural error that would not just cause substantial error at trial, it would render each and every trial in this case a nullity. It would be null and void. Given the complexity of this case, the fact that it likely will be conducted through multiple trials, given the number of defendants and the projected length of these trials, the time and resources that the courts, the parties, and the taxpayers of Fulton County are going to be forced to expend to go through this process even once is massive. That's the other thing. We talked about how big the RICO scheme is because there are so many defendants. It is the crimes taken out are a part of an organization, right? Racketeering. There are many people conducting small actions that add up to one ultimate crime. In this case, they're looking at the pyramid and they're looking at the top. Trump is at the top. There were questions regarding the election interference, right? What happened in Georgia? Made a call. What happened in Georgia? People that work for Trump were doing different things to investigate that question. What happened in Georgia? But somehow, given the evidence that the DA's office says that they have, all of these people worked in concert, allegedly, to steal the election. That's the allegation here. Okay? But let's say we take RICO out of it and you have 17 defendants. That's 17 more cases on the Fulton County taxpayers. Some of them will probably get dismissed. Some of them have already settled out. So we're going to continue to put our taxpayers through this. So it's good that the defendants here acknowledge that if this case were to separate some of the defendants out and go into some separate legal issues, this is a lot of money that the citizens have to pay for. They say it's neither prudent nor efficient to require the courts, the parties, or taxpayers to run the significant and avoidable risk of having to go through this painful, divisive, and expensive process more than once. I'm going to go to his second point, and then we'll go to the meat of their arguments. Second, the need to establish precedent in this case regarding the disqualification standard for forensic misconduct is manifest. The trial court candidly acknowledged the lack of appellate guidance on this important disqualification issue, impacting his ruling. In the forensic misconduct context, he noted that there was no appellate guidance outside of the Williams case in '88 on how to apply the forensic misconduct standard, that his decision was unmoored from the precedent and that he felt confined to the boundaries of Williams. Now they're quoting McAfee here, because the other issue is they are saying this. Judge McAfee's like, hey, something like this has never been litigated in the state of Georgia. I don't have a roadmap to follow. If there was another case outside of Williams where something like this has similarly happened, that would be my roadmap. I don't have a roadmap to follow here. So because this is new, we have to build it as we fly it, so to speak. With additional and appropriate guidance from this court, Judge McAfee's ruling would come out differently. So they're saying, hey, appeals judges, Court of Appeals, if you give him some guidance, we might have a different outcome. He's saying he doesn't have the guidance. Third, the trial court expressly found DA Willis's challenge actions, including hiring her paramour, SADA Nathan Wade, as lead prosecutor in this matter, and accepting gifts and trips from him that were funded through his compensation as lead prosecutor, created an appearance of impropriety in this case that cast a pall over these entire proceedings. Exhibit A, Act 2 and 15, the trial court was bound by existing case law to not only require Wade's disqualification, which occurred, but also to require the disqualification of DA Willis and her entire office. See, as mentioned, they are saying that was not enough. You took Nathan off. That was not enough. You should have also required Fani and her entire office to come off too. The trial court's failure to do so is plain legal error requiring reversal. Finally, and I think this is a big one, just as a taxpayer down here myself. Let me come back out. The public's faith in the integrity of the judicial system, especially the criminal justice system, is critical to its functioning. Courts have an obligation to ensure that legal proceedings appear fair to all who observe them. Our system of laws has always endeavored to prevent even the probability of unfairness. To perform to its high function in the best way, justice must satisfy the appearance of justice. When the public perception of integrity of the criminal justice system is at stake, no prejudice to defendants needs to be shown. Nowhere in these interests more important or on display than a high-profile case like this one that has captured the attention of the nation. Crucial to the public's confidence is that the prosecutors remain and appear to be disinterested and impartial. I'm going to skip that. The prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than any other person in America. That's a quote from Robert Jackson, Attorney General of the United States, the federal prosecutor. This was his address to the second annual conference of the United States Attorneys on April 1st of 1940. To avoid structural error that would invalidate and require a great repeat of upcoming trials, to establish needed precedent in the area of disqualifying forensic misconduct, and to protect and maintain the public's confidence in the integrity of the criminal justice system, this court should grant the application of appeal. So there you go. That's the opening of the defendants. And they are letting the court know flat out, hey, here's why we're here. Judge McAfee saw this. He heard our arguments. This is all pre-trial stuff. We're not at trial yet. But we filed a motion because there was this appearance of impropriety. We had the cell hawk data. We had all these things. We had some potential lies on the stand. Actually, there were lies on the stand. You had Nathan Wade's former law partner, Terrence, and all the text messages, and Ashley Merchant uncovering all this. And she was a super sleuth throughout this whole thing. She just uncovered everything, right? She uncovered so much of this. We had the church speech, which was also just crazy. So, considering the church speech, I think I was here last Sunday on Palm Sunday, guys. and Fani was over the weekend talking about the case again. And they're like, you're still doing it. You're still talking about the case. Stop talking about it. At this point, Nathan's not on it. You don't need to come. And you got other people on the, in the office that can litigate this. And thank God yesterday, she had two other attorneys stand in and argue these motions against Boots and the other attorney there, right? So the Court of Appeals now has this document, and that's how it's set up. It's saying, hey, Judge McAfee did partially do his job, but we need to ensure that, that's not enough. So Court of Appeals, we're trying to come to you, give him the standard, and or take her off, take the office off. So we'll see, from what my conversations with Lead, he has mentioned to me that in the state of Georgia, appeals can take a while. I mean, they've put some emphasis on hoping to do this quickly. However, we don't know how long that's going to take. I'm going to skip over the background, guys, because we've had the last 3 to 4 weeks to go through the background and see it play out in court. But I do want to come to the standard of review for a second, because I think this would be good for us to look at. So the standard of review, and they're trying to say, hey, Court of Appeals, here's what we think it could be. But here, you also need to weigh in on this. So they are saying there exists a categorical rule against the appointment of an interested prosecutor, adherence to which requires no subtle calculations of judgment. Georgia appellate courts employ careful standards when reviewing court orders that implicate prosecutorial disqualification. But ultimately, whether disqualification is required in this case is a question of law for the court. Specifically, when reviewing a trial court's ruling on a motion to disqualify a prosecutor, what this court has done in the past is they apply an abuse of discretion standard. So what does that mean? Under the abuse of discretion standard, this court reviews legal holdings de novo. So when it comes to new issues that it's never seen before, it upholds factual findings as long as they are not clearly erroneous, which means there is some evidence in the record to support them. Here, defendants challenge the trial court's legal findings, thus, a de novo review is proper. Indeed, while courts review facts underlying disqualification for clear error, the existence of a conflict of interest is a legal question. This court also has said it's a matter of law whether a lawyer has a conflict of interest requiring disqualification. Okay, so they cite some case law here. Here's their argument. The Court of Appeals Rule 30 provides that an application for review will be granted where it appears that any of the following exists. So what are they asking for? 1, the issue to be decided appears to be dispositive of the case, meaning that if it will take the whole case away, that's something that they can look at. The order appears erroneous and will probably cause a substantial error at trial, or will adversely affect the rights of the appealing party until entry of the final judgment in which the case appeal will be expedited, right? So meaning, let's break that out. 1, the order appears erroneous. That's what they're saying McAfee did, right? And because that there's a problem here, it's going to cause a substantial error when we do go to trial. And it's also going to affect the rights of the appealing party until Court of Appeals, you make a decision here, right? Or the establishment of precedent is desirable, meaning they need precedent on this too. I mean, granted, it's not how many times in a century, are you going to have an election case in random states? You know, like you have Bush v. Gore, you have this one. But in the last 100 years, how many election cases have been bought in the state of Georgia? It's new because it's never been done before, but who knows? I mean, shout out to Mike in Tennessee. What if this was in Tennessee? What if this was in, Montana? What if this was in, New Mexico? They're not going to have precedent for this stuff either. So that's why it's like, it's kind of crazy. And that's why all eyes are going to be on the Court of Appeals here, because what they decide to do in this particular case is something that is going to impact the entire country. Don't be surprised if this ends up in law books itself in the future, Anywho, defendants' application easily satisfied the second and third criteria, and while the disqualification is not dispositive of the underlying allegations in the indictment, failure to disqualify would require reversal of any judgment obtained that is prosecuted by DA Willis or her office. Oh, that's a big one. Failure to disqualify would require reversal of any judgment obtained that is prosecuted by DA Willis or her office. That's big. Shout out to Boots and team. That's huge. Because they're saying, if you don't disqualify her for this, then almost every case that her and her team touch is tainted in a sense. Whew. I mean, guys, I hope you are strapped in. I'm going to take another super chat break, and then I'll just keep scanning the document because I don't want to be redundant with things you guys already know. It's just that this came out like an hour before I was going to go live. I'm like, let me show my folks. We'll go from there. Shout out to Gilbert, who says, it's the disappointment. I mean, it is. It is. Shout out to Raymond, who became a member. Welcome to the squad, Raymond. Shout out to Michelle, since the $2 super. She says, watched you in TLA early and so appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys appreciate it, because I'm starting to run out of gas today. I'm like, I need a nap. Shout out to Terry, who sends a $10 super sticker. Thank you so much, Terry. Super, super nice of you. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Raymond with the $10 super sticker as well. And then I have a $4.99 from one of my faves, Audrey. Hope you're doing well, Audrey. And I think you sent a Cash App earlier today. So thank you so much for that. Okay, and let me go to Cash Apps for a minute. Shout out to Salty, who sends me $20. You are the best, Salty. Audrey, I think I just caught that $12 one. Love your streams and dramatics, lovely AV. I mean, sometimes it's like, it's so easy to just make things function smoothly, but sometimes people like to make it hard, Shout out to E. Capone, who sends $5. He says, lock people out. Should I lock people out? No, I'm nice. I'm not there yet. I am not there yet. Okay, let's go back to this document, guys, and see what else Boots and team have for us. Okay, so the application should be granted. So they're now saying why this is a pretrial. Okay, let me read that. The application should be granted because the erroneous failure to disqualify a prosecutor pretrial is a structural error and a due process violation requiring reversal of any convictions. So what they're saying here is you should grant our appeal because the judge made a mistake by not getting Fani off before the trial started. That's a structural error. And it's impacting all the defendants' due process rights. Okay. So there's that one. Let's see what else they've got. The second is the appeal should be granted to provide this court with the opportunity to clarify precedent and the forensic misconduct standard for disqualifying a prosecutor in Georgia. So they're also like, hey, McAfee said there wasn't a roadmap to follow. I need you guys to create one, right? You need to clarify what the roadmap is going to be. What is the standard to disqualify a DA in Georgia? What is that roadmap like moving forward, right? Yeah, because they even cite it right here. They say the court explicitly found in its March 15th order that DA Willis's extrajudicial statements, the church speech, was legally proper. Judge McAfee said that. The trial court also expressly found that there was reasonable questions about whether Fani and her hand-selected, SADA testified truthfully. So McAfee said both of those things. Right? And that an odor, I know you guys love this, odor of mendacity lingers over DA Willis in this case. So those three things are what McAfee had mentioned in his March 15th order. I know you guys love it. Type in odor of mendacity if you still think it stinks. If you still think that there's smoke brewing. If you still think that it's on this case. Despite these findings, the trial court applying Williams, our Supreme Court's decision on pretrial prosecutorial misconduct, felt confined to stop short of disqualification due to the professed lack of guidance in Georgia case law on the standards for disqualifying a prosecutor. So they're quoting what McAfee had stated. So this is like an actual copy and paste from McAfee's ruling. There's some more of that in here. But what this section is about, what this argument is about, is looking at it like, hey, McAfee did not have the roadmap and we need one. We need one now. This case is too important not to have. Right? And then they just talk about it more. They say this standard for disqualifying pretrial forensic misconduct and the broader but necessary applications in Williams is logical, right? But they still need more. They still need more. A prosecutor appearing on national television to malign and disparage defendants is not rendered consistent with due process and her ethical obligations merely because she refrains from explicitly saying that they are guilty of the crime charge and only strongly intimates it. The existing due process and ethical guardrails already in place extend well beyond simply protecting a defendant from a prosecutor's pretrial comment on his or her guilt. But because of its admitted uncertainty caused by a lack of appellate guidance, the court felt compelled to apply Williams very narrowly, limiting it to its facts. That's good. That's actually good that they're saying this too, because here's what they're saying McAfee did. They keep talking about this Williams case. It's from 1985. But it's like the facts of that case didn't fit. Sometimes, we talk about like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Like you guys know that famous saying from the OJ case. When we are looking for comparable cases, almost like if you're selling your home, you're looking for comps, comparable homes that have sold in the area, right? It's not necessarily always going to fit, but sometimes you need something that fits a little bit closer. But what Boots and team are saying here is that you've never had to disqualify a prosecutor based off of forensic misconduct. What McAfee did is he applied the Williams case, but that case didn't have a prosecutor as the actor in the facts. It didn't have, I think it was an attorney that needed to be disqualified based off of some ethical things, but not necessarily a prosecutor. So it's good that they are telling the appeals court here, hey, here's exactly what we need you to do, and here's why, right? It's really important that they mention that. I'm not going to go into that because we've kind of talked about it. They're talking about the church speech here, exactly what she had said in the church, how it's unfair alone. They're even applying the Williams case. Look at this one. This is pretty interesting. They say here, under Williams on January 14th, 2024, the church speech alone is disqualifying forensic misconduct. They're saying you don't need anything else. It's just the church speech alone. That's all we need, because technically she's talking about the defendants. If she's trying them, she shouldn't be talking about the defendants at all. Even if Williams were unclear, the United States Supreme Court has recognized that the heightened public clamor resulting from radio and TV coverage will inevitably result in prejudice. That's from a Supreme Court case. And the fact that DA Willis has intentionally and publicly injected race, racial bias, and religion into this case and any possible jury pool makes the disqualification of DA Willis and her office particularly necessary and appropriate. They're citing some more case law here. DAs in their offices have been disqualified or recused from prosecutions for making prejudicial statements to media and other cases. So they're citing some more from other states, some other appeals court cases. Okay. They're also saying that DA Willis' submission of a false statement and false testimony is also disqualifying forensic misconduct. So they're saying that the church speech is enough. They're saying that her lying under oath is also enough. And then they do they put the quote in here that God told her to prosecute this case. That was interesting. Alarmingly, the evidence demonstrate that even after being rebuked for her improper and unethical behavior in this case by Judge McBurney in this July order, again by Judge McAfee in this order, and having already been disqualified because of her actual personal conflict of interest, DA Willis is still utterly unrepentant for her individual misconduct and that of SDA Wade. I mean, oh, look at what Boots did here. Guys, you know the clip I showed you over the weekend? Boots put it in this appeal. It's right here. I knew it. Oh, man, I knew it. They were letting her hang herself. So the thing she said last weekend about at the Easter egg hunt, where they were like, hey, do you regret anything you did? And she's just like, I don't regret anything that I did. I forget what she said. We might have to look at that clip again. It's right here in this appeals court document. Shout out to Boots. Oh my goodness. It's right here. And that's the thing. They told her to stop talking about the case, and she went and started talking about it again. Jeez. Oh. Defendants maintain below that dismissal is the truly appropriate remedy because the disqualification of DA Willis and her office cannot fully undo the damage caused to the defendants and their due process rights. But her disqualification is the minimum that must be done to remove the stain of her legally improper and plainly unethical conduct from the remainder of the case. And given her lack of acknowledgement of or any remorse for her misconduct. Oh my God, I just realized that this is still small and you guys haven't been able to follow along. And given the lack of her acknowledgement of or any remorse for her misconduct that has been separately denounced by 2 superior court judges, her disqualification is necessary to ensure she cannot continue to violate her heightened ethical obligations as a prosecutor to further prejudice defendants in this case. DA Willis has already taken 2 bites at the apple at the expense of the defendant's due process rights to a disinterested prosecutor in a fair trial. She must not get a third. They don't want her to have a third. They do not want her to have a third. Wow. So there's more legalese here. What are they saying here? DA Willis has herself acknowledged, when you represent the citizens, you need to be beyond reproach. Fani Willis talks about race against DA Paul Howard. Oh, Boots put this in here too. He put that clip in here too. Oh, here, DA Willis has covered herself and her office in scandal and disrepute, and she has squandered her credibility and repeatedly and flagrantly violated the heightened ethical standards demanded of her position. The evidence of her forensic misconduct is overwhelming, and her disqualification is required. The trial court's decision not to disqualify DA Willis under these circumstances is a structural error, a violation of the defendant's due process rights, and seriously puts a shade on the public's confidence in the integrity of the criminal justice system. That was a good section. That was a good section. I love that part. Okay, next argument. The order's failure to find an actual conflict of interest and its proposed remedy for the appearance of impropriety is erroneous under Georgia law and will cause substantial error at trial. So they're going to keep going with that argument. They're going to tell us how that happened. So McAfee, he made an error in determining that Willis had not acquired a personal stake in this case through her actual conflict of interest. I mean, she definitely did. She definitely did. What else did they got? The trial court, so McAfee made an error by determining no actual conflict of interest existed based on its own fact finding. And the defendants are like, hey, we gave you everything. We showed it to you. We showed it to you repeatedly. How do you still not see an actual conflict of interest? Right? So they're going to kind of show, here's what he said, here's what we showed. So a lot of this is going to be some of the copy and paste things. 3, McAfee made an error by refusing to disqualify Willis for the appearance of a conflict or impropriety. So we know that. We're going to keep going. More case law. This is 51 pages, guys. I just don't want to drag you through it. Okay. Let's land the plane. Here's the conclusion in the appeal. It reads, for the within and foregoing reasons, this court should grant defendant's application and accept the appeal. Oh, that's it. That was it. I mean, I think it's a good argument. I think it's a good argument. They did show a lot. It was a public spectacle. Everyone saw it. It's in front of the Georgia Senate. I think they are still investigating right now. As we are aware, you know, Fani is still on this case as of right now. It's the timing is crucial though, because the election is coming. And let's say Trump gets elected again. He's back in office. Are you going to subject a president to fight something that happened 2 elections ago? It's crazy. It is crazy. Let me keep going. Thank you, Audrey, for the super. Shout out to Robert, who says, will Fani get a chance to respond to this brief? If so, will she send a defiant response like she did to Jim Jordan? So, Robert, here's the thing. She will not have an opportunity to respond to this brief because this is the defendant sending this to the Court of Appeals. Why? Because they are saying that Judge McAfee made a mistake in allowing her to stay on. So because the defendants and the judge are not on the same page, these 2 things go up to the Court of Appeals for review. Because what does the Court of Appeals review? They're going to review Judge McAfee's findings to make sure that the decision that he made is legally sound. The defendants are saying that it wasn't. And the document I just took you guys through are all of their reasons why. 51 pages. And just kind of checking the date because I want to make sure that it actually was delivered today. You know, she did get a copy, but this was, it says, I hereby certify that there's a prior agreement with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office to allow documents in PDF format to be sent. To that end, on today, March 29th, I served a copy of the foregoing application upon the following counsel of record. So that means that Fani Willis got a copy of this today. It also shows that Adam Abate, Post-it Kid, he got a copy of this today. Daisha Young at her office got a copy of this today. Everyone at her office. Wakeford, the person that we saw argue yesterday, Donald Wakeford, he got a copy of this today. Her whole office got a copy of this today. Yeah. Wow. 40 pages. What do you guys think? This is going to be interesting. I'm happy to share it with you. I'm looking at it too. So this was filed in the Court of Appeals today. Fani got a copy of it today. Shout out to Evelyn who says, love how you explain the documents. You're an excellent teacher. You that chick. Thank you so much, Evelyn. I like your name, by the way. Thank you so much. And that's the thing, guys. I try to make it entertaining. Sometimes reading the documents can be dry, you know, like the Jim Jordan thing. I think that was super simple, but you can see the defiance even in her response to that. Imagine if she had an opportunity to respond to this, right? They all got served. They all got, not served, but they all received a copy of this appeal today. So they know that it's going on. I really do hope that Fani stays away from media and cameras and things because it's not looking that great right now. You know, going to go to Cash App real quick. Shout out to Alton who sends $1. He says, appreciate your show. Keep it up. Thank you so much, Alton. I'll be honest, guys, it's getting a little late. I've been going for a really long time. So I'm going to come to you in the chat and start to wind it down. But wow, there's been a lot happening. Shout out to Brian who says, if Trump doesn't pull through, our country will be overrun and there will probably be civil unrest. I really hope that's not the case. You know, there's been a lot of eyes on what happened in the last election. Hopefully 2024 goes off without a hitch. But there's just so much. I mean, we talked about the whole other case that he had in New York. And that's the other thing, guys. Not only is he, you know, he got the bond slashed by half. So that's good. You have this case and there's another one coming on April 15th. There's a trial coming on April 15th. So I'm keeping my ear to the ground because that's in like 2 weeks, you know? So I'm hoping that some of this stuff lays low for a little bit because that's the stormy case. So that should be interesting. That's the hush money case with, do you guys remember Michael Avenatti? I think he's in jail, no? There's so much going on. Hi, Kristen. She says, hi, beautiful. Papa V says, can she submit an amicus brief? She might be able to. She might be able to. Shout out to Deborah who says, you deserve a break. I do. I cannot, you know what I'm going to do tonight? I'm just going to like hang out on my couch and like veg out and watch like anime. I'm a nerd. You guys are going to get to know more about me, but I've been watching Avatar, The Last Airbender, because it came out when I was little. And like now it's an actual like season of people that were in the anime cartoon. So I don't know. This might sound like weird to some of you guys. So I'm going to stop talking now. Shout out to Wendy who says Fani probably filed her copy in the trash bin. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that, Wendy. If all the other people in the office have it, I mean, at this point, she should be hands off of this case completely. The fact that they are alleging that you had a romantic relationship with somebody that is in your office and he had no experience and he was on top of this, like let the people that work for you actually do their jobs. It would be really prudent for her to do that. Brian says, I hope she doesn't. I hope God has another talk with her. Hopefully, but I don't know. The last conversation was like, She was ordained by God to prosecute people. So shout out to JTZ Real. More Democrats are this aligned than Republicans at the moment. Usually it is Republicans because nothing is done right. Now it's Dems that will vote RFK. I mean, it's going to be an interesting year. Captain Teach, how are you? Captain Teach says nobody's going to jail for a traitor like Trump. Whoa, Captain Teach. Opinionated. All right, guys, I think I am just about wrapping up. Shout out to Lady Di. She says, oh my God, my son 21 loves anime, but I can't get into it. I think it depends on what you're watching. Like the Last Airbender is pretty cool. I like it. Ricky says, what are some of your favorite animes? I would say that is really the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. I'm so tired, guys. Shout out to Jay Shar, who says, what's good, AV in chat. Shout out to Sapphire Ridge Acres. I love that hat. Oh my gosh, I almost bought one in that color. I love that hat. That's a perfect like winter hat too. AV7, what's your email address? If it should be AV7. I will, Lady Di, I will put it in. Leave a comment after this and I'll respond to it and send it to you. But if you go to the channel description, I think it shows, you could do this for any YouTube channel. If you go to like the top of a YouTube channel under like more details or description or something like that, it should have all my contact details there. So you might be able to find it or send me a comment and I'll respond and send it to you. Shout out to Boston, Mass. You're popping in right now, guys. I love this because the person is from Boston, Mass, and so am I. Boston, you'll love this. Guess what happened to me on Monday? I went to an Atlanta Hawks and Celtics game, and I wore a Celtics jersey. It's over there. I wore a Tatum jersey, and it was so good to see the Celts. People hate it. Maybe I shouldn't have done it, but like you get it. Like we call ourselves in Massachusetts massholes. Right. I assumed that across the country, people understand that Boston fans are just crazy about our sports. The Bruins, like we're just obnoxious. So like some man looked at me because I was wearing the jersey and like I was with one of my male friends and there was like a ton of other Celtics fans sitting next to me. Right. He like gave me the double bird, was like, F you, because they were down 40. The Celts were winning. Oh my God, it was glorious. The Hawks were down by 40. And granted, guys, it was a miraculous comeback. So I'm going to give the Atlanta Hawks this. They came back and beat us by 1. But the Celtics were winning by like 40 points. It was amazing. And maybe we just rubbed it in a little bit. But the guy was mad. It was like double flip up, like flip the bird, like just double fisting, like F you. I was like, oh my gosh. I thought people in the South had manners. I don't know what happened. So I knew you would appreciate that. I was hoping that you would pop in this week so I could tell you that story. Lady Di says, oh my God, you need to look into Boston. Their system is so corrupt right now. It's too dim. I don't know. There's migrants going up there. I came to the South for a reason. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I hope you guys have a fantastic Easter weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. You could have been anywhere. I showed you some of this document. It's not the entire thing, but I was just happy to be able to share it with you guys tonight on the same day that it was filed. There's a lot more coming for the channel. We'll keep you guys posted on merch. Lead and I have been doing some stuff on the Diddy case and the Diddy raid and, the whole freak off nails thing. We were talking about that. My editor is working on a synopsis of all the events this week from that. And then I'll probably get him on a synopsis of this appeal as well. So if you want the quick and dirty version, stay tuned. Put your notification bell on. Stay safe out there. I will see you in the next one. Bye.